Peter Falk passed away in 2011 at age 83 after briefly battling pneumonia. It was a solemn final curtain call for the beloved actor, who for over 3 decades portrayed an equally disheveled and seemingly forgetful, yet magnificently brilliant TV detective, Columbo. Falk had been suffering from Alzheimer's disease that left his second wife fighting his children in a nasty battle for control of his $100 million estate. Falk's doctor, Stephen Reed, revealed that in his final days, his patient didn't even remember who Columbo was. Peter Falk had once tried to become a CIA agent as well as a rifleman before he reluctantly decided to be an actor. His illustrious career was full of accomplishments that he no doubt took immense pride in. He was nominated for 2 Oscars and appeared in 58 films, but his most notable triumph was appearing in 69 episodes of the program Columbo and its 24 TV films. He loved playing that role. He never once feared becoming typecast and was planning on making more episodes right up to his death. Falk's difficult relationships with women. While Columbo had a fondness for chewing on cigars and enjoying the company of his beloved basset hound, in real life, Falk was drawn to far more damaging vices. He drank like a fish and smoked like a chimney. He loved partying with his friends and was known to be quite the womanizer. He was a neglectful spouse and an absent father, yet still, somehow he managed to become one of the most iconic celebrities of his era. Falk dated his college sweetheart Alice Mayo for 12 years before they tied the knot in 1960, but after they were wed, he didn't blink before he started cheating. He was a shameless playboy who felt like women everywhere owed him something. On almost every movie set he was on, he was chasing another woman. Alice tended to turn a blind eye to his infidelity, but it had to have hurt. Eventually, she decided enough was enough and filed for divorce in 1976. Just a year later, Falk got married to his mistress, Shara Denise, an actress 22 years younger than him. Peter and Shara's marriage wasn't a fairy tale romance either. Falk first saw Shara when she was walking in Philadelphia a few years earlier. He literally chased her down the street, begging her for a date. At first, she was disinterested, but Falk kept pestering her until she conceded to having a drink with him. Throughout his second marriage, Falk continued to cheat with no remorse. And of course, as they say, if you play with fire, eventually you're going to get burned. Falk and Shara were known throughout Hollywood as the Fighting Falks. They were always aggressively at odds with each other, constantly arguing, breaking up, and getting back together. Somehow their marriage survived 32 years and 2 divorce filings. They stayed together until Falk's death, but Shara later admitted their life together was no walk in the park. They had plenty of problems and almost called it quits on many occasions. But they made some concessions and learned to accept each other for the good as well as the bad. Still, not even Shara was able to tame Falk's unbridled spirit. He was a reveler who thrived on being around other guys, drinking beer, playing pool, and getting into trouble. It was in his blood. Falk was not the first choice for the role of Columbo. It's hard to imagine what Columbo would have looked like without Falk, but surprisingly, he was not the show's producer's first pick. The part had originally been created for the stage by Thomas Mitchell, an actor who played Vivian Lee's father in Gone with the Wind, but unfortunately he died before the TV movie entered into production. The producers then set their sights on Bing Crosby, but reportedly he was too busy playing golf at the time to commit to a TV series. Lee J. Cobb of On the Waterfront was also considered but turned it down. Even Falk took some convincing before signing a contract. He didn't want to be tied down to the grind of being on a series, but he had just been robbed of $100,000 by his shady former manager and needed the cash, so he took the gig to ease his financial woes. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to FALK'S if you haven't already. And don't go anywhere. Stick around to learn how Peter Falk overcame multiple roadblocks that almost put an end to his career. He wasn't your average actor. Falk wasn't your typical Hollywood star. He was just shy of 5'6", had a glass right eye, the result of surgery he had at age 3 to remove a malignant tumor, and lacked the chiseled good looks of a typical Hollywood leading man. Although he had performed in school plays, he didn't really start focusing professionally on acting until he was 29. He was the son of wealthy parents and spent several years of his youth drifting around in search of adventure. He had his sights on becoming a CIA spy at one point, but he had worked building railroads in communist Yugoslavia for 6 months, so that didn't look great on his application. Plus, there was the matter of his glass eye. The CIA basically laughed him out of the building. Since he couldn't be an agent or a rifleman, he decided to join the Merchant Marines, but he hated it. He then worked as an efficiency expert for the Budget Bureau in Connecticut. Finally, he shifted his focus to acting, but his agent cautioned him that with only one eye, he'd never make it in Hollywood. Falk persisted despite opposition. Columbia Pictures rejected his first screen test when he auditioned to be in Murder by Death in 1976. The studio's chief executive, Harry Cohn, brushed him off, saying that for the same price he could get an actor with two eyes. Despite the setback, Falk became a Broadway star, and once in Hollywood, he earned 2 Oscar nods for his first major role in the 1960 gangster flick Murder, Inc., and for his follow-up role in the dramatic comedy Pocket Full of Miracles in 1961. He then appeared in films like Robin and the Seven Hoods and The Great Race, but started to get the feeling that perhaps his film career was stalling. But then he was offered the role of his life, as homicide detective Lieutenant Frank Columbo in 1968. Falk actually provided his own wardrobe, donning the same dingy brown suit and trench coat in every episode. He purchased the raincoat at a secondhand store and used it to bug the living hell out of everyone on set because it had the tendency to make a lot of noise in the middle of shooting scenes. It produced a distinct ruffling sound that couldn't be silenced. Falk quickly became the highest-paid TV star, taking in a cool $500,000 an episode by the final season. But he always found acting to be particularly challenging work. He confessed once it had never been fun for him. Creating was hard, but success inevitably went to his head, and he became completely obsessed with controlling every role. His almost neurotic approach to performing made it especially difficult for TV and movie directors to work with him. He would argue over every single line and camera angle. It was a lot for anyone to deal with. A lot of major studios back then wouldn't greenlight any project that had his name connected to it. He had burned too many bridges, and had a reputation of being a pariah of sorts by many producers. He used his role as Columbo to springboard his way into films like The In-Laws, Wings of Desire, and The Princess Bride. But he never desired to stop making Columbo movies. But sadly, his 2003 feature proved to be his last. Peter Falk's difficult final years. In 2006, Falk's memory began to fade. While Columbo was always known to be forgetful, this was different. He had become quite unhappy, and that sped up his cognitive decline. After having dental surgery and hip surgery, the anesthesia seemed to exacerbate his Alzheimer's. He was never quite the same again. His second wife, Shara, battled with his adopted daughter, Catherine, over control of his care and assets. Catherine tried to argue she and her sister, Jackie, had been barred from being able to visit their father for months, alleging that Shara would slam the door on them whenever they came to see him. Catherine also accused Shara of elder abuse, but the judge didn't agree with her. He ultimately awarded Shara full conservatorship and limited Catherine and her sister's visits to just 30 minutes twice a week. When Falk finally died in 2011, Catherine only learned of her father's passing from the media and was banned from attending his funeral. She described that experience as being absolutely devastating. Falk left the majority of his finances to his widow, Shara. Now it's time to hear from you. In the comment section below, let us know what your favorite episode of Columbo was. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FALK'S if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.